Welcome to the Deep Sleep Science channel. Tonight, we're going to explore the quiet and fascinating world of ocean creatures. The oceans cover more than 70% of our planet, forming the largest living environment on Earth. Beneath the waves exists an extraordinary variety of life animals that glow in darkness, creatures that drift with the currents, hunters that navigate using electricity, and tiny organisms that quietly support entire ecosystems. These are what we call ocean creatures, or marine animals, and together they represent one of the most diverse collections of life forms on the planet. An ocean creature is simply any animal that spends most or all of its life in saltwater environments, such as oceans and seas. These animals can live near the shoreline, in coral reefs, along the seafloor, or in the vast open ocean, far from land. Some live close to the surface where sunlight reaches the water, while others survive thousands of meters below the waves in complete darkness, where pressure is immense and temperatures are near freezing. Ocean creatures come in many different biological groups. Some are vertebrates, animals with backbones, such as fish, sharks, dolphins, whales, and sea turtles. Others are invertebrates, animals without backbones, which actually make up the majority of ocean life. These include jellyfish, octopuses, sea stars, crabs, shrimp, corals, sponges, and countless microscopic organisms drifting through the water. Marine life is also often categorized by where the animals live. Pelagic creatures inhabit the open ocean, far from the seafloor. Benthic animals live on or near the ocean floor, including crabs, sea cucumbers, and many types of worms. Reef animals thrive among coral structures, while deep-sea creatures survive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, where sunlight never reaches. What makes the ocean especially fascinating is that scientists are still discovering new species regularly. Many ocean habitats remain difficult to explore because of extreme depth, crushing pressure, or remote locations. To find new creatures, researchers use deep-sea submersibles, remotely operated vehicles, specialized cameras, and genetic tools that can identify species from tiny traces of DNA in the water. Sometimes new animals are discovered when scientists explore underwater mountains, deep trenches, hydrothermal vents, or unexplored coral reefs. Other times, creatures that were already known turn out to be multiple different species when researchers analyze their DNA more carefully. Even today, thousands of marine species are described for the first time every decade. The ocean's diversity is also shaped by millions of years of evolution. Because water absorbs light, changes pressure with depth, and moves constantly with currents, marine animals have developed remarkable adaptations. Some produce their own light through bioluminescence, others camouflage themselves perfectly against sand or coral, and some can sense vibrations, chemicals, or even electrical signals in the water. Scientists estimate that the oceans may contain millions of species, many of which have not yet been studied or even seen by humans. In fact, some deep-sea regions are so unexplored that researchers often compare them to outer space in terms of how little we know about them. Tonight, as we explore relaxing facts about ocean creatures, we'll slowly move through this vast underwater world, from tiny drifting plankton to enormous whales, from glowing deep-sea animals to clever octopuses hiding among rocks. And along the way, you'll discover how these creatures live, hunt, rest, communicate, and survive in one of the most mysterious environments on Earth. So settle in, relax, and let's begin drifting gently into the quiet wonders of life beneath the ocean's surface. In the ocean, the ability to make light isn't rare at all. It shows up across a huge range of life, from tiny bacteria and single-celled algae to jellyfish, worms, crustaceans, sea stars, many kinds of fish, and even certain sharks. each using light in its own way. When an animal truly produces its own glow, it isn't reflecting moonlight or sunlight like a mirror would. It's creating light through chemical reactions inside its body, turning stored energy into visible photons. Across the open ocean water column, a striking idea appears again and again in marine education: that in many midwater habitats, more than 3/4 of the animals you might encounter can produce some form of their own light, making the deep ocean feel like a living night sky. Even if you look only at fish, scientists have identified roughly 1,500 species that can glow, which means bioluminescence is not an odd exception. It's a widespread tool that evolved many times in many tebra. Lineages. A common deep-sea design is to place light organs, called photophores, along the underside of the body, so the animal can shine downward and soften its silhouette when it's seen from below. That strategy has a name: counterillumination, because the animal is using its own light to counter the dim light coming from above, blending into the background instead of standing out. Not every glowing animal manufactures its own light. Chemicals some gain their glow by partnering with microbes, letting helpful bacteria do the luminous work while the animal provides shelter and nutrients. The Hawaiian bobtail squid is a famous example of this kind of partnership, because it develops a specialized light organ that becomes colonized by bioluminescent bacteria soon after the squid is born, creating a living lantern powered by symbiosis. Depending on the species and where it lives, light can serve very different purposes. Some animals flash to startle predators, others glow to lure prey closer, and some use patterned light as a kind of communication in the yabi. Dark. In the deepest parts of the sea, where sunlight never reaches, bioluminescence may be the most common natural light source around, so the language of light becomes one of the main ways life interacts. Dolphins have a remarkable way to rest that lets them stay safe and functional. They can sleep with half of their brain at a time, a pattern known as unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. That half-awake style of sleep allows certain marine mammals to keep moving gently and to keep breathing on schedule, even while they are genuinely resting. One way dolphins rest is by floating near the surface, relaxed and steady, taking calm breaths at regular intervals without needing to fully wake up like a land animal would. They can also rest while swimming slowly and smoothly, maintaining a quiet forward motion that helps them stay oriented and ready to surface for air. In shallow places, dolphins may rest on the seabed for a time, then rise to breathe, then settle again, an underwater routine that balances stillness with the need for air. In dolphins and some whales, while one half of the brain sleeps, the opposite eye may remain open and observant, offering a gentle kind of watchfulness even during rest. This kind of partial sleep helps them avoid obstacles, notice changes in their surroundings, and reduce risk from threats, all while still giving the body real recovery time. Some seals show similar one-sided sleep patterns too, especially because their lives alternate between land and water, and each environment asks for a different kind of safety and control. Marine mammal sleep is shaped by a simple requirement. They must choose to surface and breathe, which means their resting strategies are built around maintaining awareness and timing. Unihemispheric sleep is often described as a major evolutionary solution for animals that live in a place where fully shutting down could be dangerous, because the ocean rewards steady awareness. In many coral reefs, small, cleaner fish set up predictable cleaning stations, and larger fish may swim in and wait their turn, holding still long enough to be picked over carefully. This cleaning relationship is mutualistic, meaning both sides benefit. The cleaner gets a reliable meal from parasites and dead tissue, while the client fish experiences a real reduction in irritating hitchhikers. In reef ecosystems, some shrimp can serve as cleaners too, using delicate movements to remove parasites from the bodies and gills of larger animals. Clownfish can live safely among the stinging tentacles of sea anemones because their protective mucus helps prevent the anemone's stings from firing in the usual painful way. In return, clownfish can defend the anemone's space from intruders, help keep the anemone cleaner, and may even bring it bits of food, forming a partnership built on shared protection. Interestingly, when clownfish are kept in aquariums, they often do perfectly well even without an anemone, showing that the partnership is powerful in nature, but not always required in captivity. And when anemones aren't available, clownfish may still seek a safe home by adopting other stationary invertebrates, sometimes certain corals or similar structures as a kind of substitute shelter. Many reef partnerships work on the same basic exchange: protection for food, cleaning for safety, shelter for defense, or some blend of those services, like small underwater agreements repeated across the ISE. Reef. Mutualistic relationships can shape the whole community of a reef, because when two species boost each other's survival, that can change which animals thrive, where they live, and how the habitat develops. Reef interactions often include calming social patterns waiting, signaling, approaching slowly that reduce conflict, helping different species share space without constant fighting. Sea stars have an extraordinary escape strategy. Some can sacrifice an arm when threatened, leaving the attacker with a wriggling distraction while the sea star moves away. Over time, that lost arm can regenerate, meaning the sea star isn't just escaping Onet's rebuilding, restoring the body so it can return to normal movement and feeding. Some sea cucumbers have a different defense. They can eject sticky structures called Cuvierian tubules, which can tangle and distract a predator long enough for the sea cucumber to get away. Even though sea cucumbers look long and sausage-shaped, they still share the echinoderm blueprint of 5-part symmetry, an ancient body plan that shows up across their relatives in subtle ways. In some sea cucumbers, gas exchange can occur through structures connected to the rear end, so oxygen moves in and out through an unusual internal plumbing system that works well for their slow, bottom-dwelling lives. Echinoderms like sea stars, urchins, and sea cucumbers are often most vulnerable as larvae, because the earliest drifting life stages face predators and currents before they ever reach the sturdier adult. Form. Sea urchins have teeth that can grow and be replaced, part of a complex feeding structure that keeps working even as the animal's hard mouthparts wear down over time. Some sea cucumbers can also defend themselves by expelling internal organs in a process called evisceration, a dramatic sacrifice that can help them survive an attack and later regenerate what was lost. Sea cucumbers come in many colors, from dark and earthy tones that blend into sand and rock to bright and multicolored patterns that stand out in coral reefs and shallow seas. Echinoderms as a group include sea stars, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, and several other related forms, all sharing deep evolutionary traits even when their shapes look wildly different. And when echinoderms regenerate, it's not just surface repair. Lost structures can return in ways that restore real function, like moving, gripping, or feeding, which is why regeneration matters so much to bear. Survival. Humpback whales feed by filtering food from seawater, and much of their diet is made of small prey like krill and schooling fish. Instead of chasing one large animal at a time, they take advantage of the ocean's tiny, abundant animals by collecting many mouthfuls in a short feeding session. This style of eating works best in places and seasons where prey gathers in thick patches. To support long periods when food is harder to find, humpbacks build up thick layers of blubber during productive feeding seasons. Blubber is both insulation and an energy reserve, like a biological savings account that can be drawn down later. By storing energy this way, whales can travel and remain active even when they aren't eating much for stretches of time. One of the most famous humpback hunting techniques is bubble net feeding, where whales cooperate to corral prey into a tight ball. They release bubbles in a rising spiral or curtain that helps contain fish, making it harder for the prey to escape. Then the whales surge upward through the concentrated prey, turning teamwork and simple physics into a highly efficient meal. Baleen whales feed using baleen plates, which act like a flexible filtering system hanging from the upper jaw. When a whale takes in water full of tiny prey, the baleen helps strain out the food while letting seawater pass back out. It's similar in concept to a giant sieve, scaled up to match an animal that can weigh many tons. A dramatic feeding behavior in many baleen whales is lunge feeding, where the whale accelerates into a patch of prey with its mouth wide open. As it lunges, its throat pleats expand like an accordion, allowing the mouth and throat to balloon outward and hold an enormous volume of water. This turns one rapid movement into a huge intake of prey-rich seawater. After that lunge, the whale closes its mouth and begins to push the captured water back out through the baleen. The water leaves, but the prey is trapped against the baleen plates and then swallowed. This step filtering after the big gulpies what makes the whole method work, turning a chaotic rush into an organized harvest. Baleen whales have 2 blowholes, which is a visible difference from toothed whales that have one. These blowholes connect to the respiratory system and allow rapid breathing at the surface. The two-bore design is one of several anatomical features that help distinguish major whale groups. Some baleen whales have fused neck vertebrae, which limits how much they can turn their heads compared to many land mammals. This might sound restrictive, but in the water, it can also support streamlining and stability. Instead of twisting the neck, many whales rely more on whole-body motion to aim and maneuver. Recent anatomical research suggests baleen whales produce their vocal sounds using a modified larynx system, rather than the nasal structures used by toothed whales. This matters because it shows whales arrived at complex sound production through different biological pathways. It's a reminder that similar outcomes like powerful communication can be built with different internal hardware. Human-made shipping noise can overlap with the frequencies whales use for communication, which can make it harder for their calls to carry. In practical terms, extra noise can reduce the effective range of whale contact, like trying to talk in a crowded, loud room. This interference can affect how whales coordinate, find mates, or maintain social spacing over long distances. Sea turtles can use Earth's magnetic field as a navigation cue during long journeys across the ocean. Because magnetism is present day and night and doesn't depend on landmarks, it can act like a built-in global guide. For an animal traveling across open water, magnetic cues provide a stable reference when there is little else to orient by. Evidence supports the idea that sea turtles may imprint on the magnetic signature of their natal region, meaning the magnetic field becomes part of their internal memory of home. Different coastal areas have slightly different magnetic properties, like subtle geographic fingerprints. If turtles can learn these signatures early, they may later use them to return to the same broad region to nest. Earth's magnetic signatures are not perfectly fixed, and they can drift gradually over time as the planet's magnetic field shifts. That slow change may help explain why nesting locations can also shift along coastlines over long periods. It's not that turtles are suddenly lost, but that the magnetic address they follow can move little by little. Loggerhead hatchlings, even when very young, can respond to regional magnetic fields and use them as navigational markers in the open ocean. This suggests the magnetic sense is present early and can guide them through large-scale pathways that improve survival. For a tiny hatchling entering a massive ocean, having a built-in directional system can be life-saving. Many research summaries describe sea turtle navigation as combining both map information and a compass-like sense of direction. The compass aspect helps them keep a heading, while the map aspect helps them interpret where they are in relation to important routes or destinations. Together, these abilities allow more than simple drifting. They enable purposeful travel. Some studies suggest magnetic map sensing can remain stable, even if other cues are disturbed, which matters because the ocean can be visually confusing. Storms, clouds, waves, and changing water clarity can reduce the usefulness of the sun, stars, or coastlines. Magnetic information, by contrast, is always present, so it can serve as a dependable fallback. Magnetic cues may also help turtles maintain seasonal orientation, such as moving toward warmer waters or staying within favorable current systems. Instead of wandering randomly, turtles can hold a general course that matches changing conditions through the year. This is especially important for animals that live long lives and face different environments as they grow. Because navigation problems can reduce survival, turtle magnetic navigation research is used in conservation thinking. If animals become disoriented by artificial light, habitat changes, or disrupted routes, the impacts can appear as lower nesting success or lower juvenile survival. Understanding navigation helps conservationists predict what changes might be most harmful. Sea turtle migrations can span entire ocean basins, so a low-energy global cue like magnetism is especially valuable. Unlike constant swimming with no plan, navigation allows turtles to align with currents, avoid unfavorable regions, and reach key feeding or nesting areas more efficiently. Over long distances, small improvements in route choice can make a big difference. Navigation ability is not necessarily perfect from the start, and it can be learned and refined over time. As turtles grow and experience different conditions, they may improve how they combine cues like magnetism, currents, and local signals. This gradual refinement fits with the idea that navigation is a skill shaped by both biology and experience. Mantis shrimps can perceive a range of wavelengths from deep ultraviolet to far red, broader than human vision. Humans see only a slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, but mantis shrimps can access additional information embedded in underwater light. This broader sensitivity can help them detect contrasts, patterns, or signals that are invisible to us. Some mantis shrimps detect not only ordinary light intensity and color, but also the orientation of light waves, including both linear and circular polarization. Polarization can carry extra information in water, where scattering and reflection create complex light patterns. By reading that hidden layer, mantis shrimps may see a richer version of their environment. In several mantis shrimp groups, the eye contains a specialized mid-band region built from multiple rows of ommatidia that each serve different functions. Think of it like an eye with dedicated sensor strips for separate tasks. This design divides visual labor inside the eye itself, allowing fast processing of varied signals. Within that mid-band, some rows can focus more on color processing, while others specialize in polarization processing. Separating tasks this way can reduce confusion and speed up decisions, especially during hunting or social interactions. It's a bit like having different channels for different kinds of visual data. Some mantis shrimps have many photoreceptor types soften, described as around 12 to 16 FR more than the 3 types humans rely on for color vision. More receptor types can allow detection of more distinct spectral bands. However, having many sensors does not automatically mean better color discrimination in the human sense. It means the system can be tuned for the animal's needs. Despite their broad spectral sensitivity, mantis shrimps can show relatively poor discrimination between very close wavelengths, suggesting they may prioritize speed over fine comparison. Instead of carefully analyzing tiny differences, they may quickly classify colors into broader categories. That strategy can be very effective when decisions must be fast, like striking prey or responding to rivals. Their eyes sit on stalks, which lets them scan by moving their eyes independently rather than turning their whole body. This helps them keep their body still and stable while exploring the scene visually. It also allows rapid tracking of motion without revealing their position as much. Mantis shrimp-on movements can include pitch, yaw, and roll, a combination that is rare to see so fully integrated in other animals. With these movements, the animal can rotate the eye to sample light from different angles. This can improve detection of polarization and contrast because those signals often change with viewing angle. Polarization vision may help mantis shrimps enhance contrast when locating prey or reading signals in complex underwater lighting. Underwater scenes can be full of glare, reflections, and scattered light. Polarization sensitivity can cut through some of that noise, revealing edges or patterns that would otherwise blend into the background. Because the mantis shrimp visual system is so unusual, studying it has influenced engineering ideas for sensors and imaging systems. Researchers look at how nature solves problems like contrast, glare reduction, and rapid classification. The goal is not to copy the eye exactly, but to learn principles that can improve human technology. Octopus blood appears blue because it uses hemocyanin, a copper-based molecule that carries oxygen. In humans, oxygen binds to iron in hemoglobin, producing red blood, but in octopuses the copper chemistry gives a blue tone when oxygenated. This is a vivid example of how different animal groups can evolve different solutions for the same basic task, moving oxygen to tissues. Hemocyanin chemistry differs from hemoglobin, and it can function well in cold, low-oxygen environments that some octopus species experience. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water, but deep or still, areas can still be oxygen poor, and pressures can be extreme. Hemocyanin's performance under certain conditions can help support an active animal living in challenging habitats. Several octopus species are described as having 3 hearts. 2 hearts push blood toward the gills, and 1 heart moves oxygenated blood through the rest of the body. This arrangement supports efficient oxygen pickup at the gills and delivery to tissues. It also highlights how strongly cephalopods are built around meeting high oxygen demands. The oxygen transport strategy of cephalopods is tied to their active lifestyles and the energy needs of their nervous systems. Octopuses are not passive drifters. They often hunt, explore, and respond quickly to changes. Supporting that level of activity requires a strong system for delivering oxygen where it's needed, when it's needed. Octopuses are boneless, which makes them incredibly flexible and able to squeeze through openings that seem impossibly small. Without rigid bones, their bodies can change shape dramatically as long as the opening is big enough for the hard beak to pass through. This flexibility is not just a trick, it's a daily survival advantage for hiding, hunting, and navigating rocky terrain. Blue blood is not unique to octopuses. In fact, several groups of marine invertebrates use hemocyanin instead of hemoglobin to carry oxygen. This copper-based molecule dissolves directly in the blood plasma rather than sitting inside cells like hemoglobin does in humans. When oxygen binds to hemocyanin, it produces a bluish color, which is why the blood of many cephalopods and related animals appears blue instead of red. Cephalopod physiology is often studied because it shows how evolution can solve the same biological challenge in different ways. Moving oxygen through the body is essential for life, but animals have developed different molecules and systems to accomplish it. Octopuses demonstrate that even very different chemistry can achieve the same goal of keeping tissues supplied with oxygen. Hemocyanin works differently from hemoglobin in how it carries oxygen through the bloodstream. Instead of being packed inside red blood cells, the molecule floats freely in the blood plasma. This arrangement changes how oxygen moves through the circulatory system and how the blood behaves under different temperatures and oxygen levels. Temperature and oxygen levels in the water can strongly influence how well respiratory pigments like hemocyanin perform. In colder water, chemical reactions slow down, but oxygen can dissolve more easily. Animals that rely on hemocyanin often live in environments where these chemical conditions make this system effective. Cephalopods such as octopuses and squids are often used in comparative biology studies because their nervous systems are unusually complex for invertebrates. Their brains and distributed nerve networks allow advanced behaviors like problem-solving, camouflage, and flexible movement. Studying them helps scientists understand how intelligence and nervous systems evolve in different animal groups. Giant tube worms that live near hydrothermal vents survive without a digestive tract. Instead of eating food in the usual way, they depend entirely on bacteria living inside their bodies. These bacteria produce nutrients for the worm, allowing the animal to live in places where sunlight never reaches and traditional food chains would fail. The bacteria living inside these tube worms create energy using chemosynthesis. Instead of sunlight, they use chemicals such as hydrogen sulfide released from the sea floor. By converting these chemicals into organic molecules, the bacteria create food that supports the entire host animal. The discovery of hydrothermal vent ecosystems changed scientists' understanding of life in the ocean. Before these discoveries, it was widely assumed that almost all large ecosystems ultimately depended on sunlight. Vent communities showed that chemical energy from Earth's interior could support dense populations of animals even in total darkness. The tube worm species Rifsia pachyptilla houses its symbiotic bacteria in a specialized internal organ called the trophosome. This organ acts like a living farm where the bacteria grow and produce nutrients. The worm provides chemicals and oxygen to the bacteria, and the bacteria provide food to the worm. The plume at the top of the vent tube worm functions as a chemical exchange structure. It absorbs oxygen and other dissolved chemicals from the surrounding water. These substances are transported inside the body and delivered to the bacteria that power the worm's metabolism. Chemosynthetic partnerships are not limited to tube worms. Many other animals living around hydrothermal vents or cold seeps host bacteria that convert chemical energy into usable nutrients. This means entire communities can depend on microbial processes rather than sunlight. Animals that live near hydrothermal vents must tolerate chemical gradients that would be toxic to most life forms. Hot vent fluids contain substances like hydrogen sulfide and metals that can damage typical biological systems. Vent animals have evolved specialized physiological mechanisms that allow them to survive in these extreme conditions. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems are often patchy and temporary. Individual vents can appear and disappear as geological activity changes. Because of this instability, many vent animals produce larvae that can drift long distances in the ocean before settling at a new vent site. Some hydrothermal vent communities are dominated by animals that host symbiotic microbes rather than actively hunting prey. These animals obtain most of their energy through the bacteria living inside their tissues. As a result, microbial metabolism becomes the foundation of the entire ecosystem. Scientists study vent symbiosis to understand how hosts and microbes cooperate under extreme environmental conditions. These partnerships reveal how two organisms can evolve tightly linked metabolic systems. Research in this area also provides insights into the early evolution of life and possible life in extreme environments beyond Earth. The Portuguese man-o'-war is often mistaken for a jellyfish, but it is actually a siphonophore. Instead of being a single organism, it is a colony made up of many genetically identical individuals that specialize in different tasks. Together, they function as if they were one integrated creature. Within the colony, each unit called a zooid performs a particular role. Some zooids capture prey, others digest food, and others focus on reproduction or defense. This division of labor allows the colony to operate efficiently, almost like organs in a single body. At the top of the Portuguese man-of-war colony is a gas-filled float known as a pneumatophore. This float keeps the colony at the ocean surface. By remaining at the surface, the colony can extend its long tentacles downward into the water to capture prey. The float also acts like a sail that catches the wind. Because of this, Portuguese man-of-war colonies drift with wind patterns across the ocean surface. Their movement is influenced more by wind direction than by underwater currents. Inside the float, the gas mixture can include carbon monoxide produced by the organism itself. This unusual gas composition helps maintain buoyancy. The ability to regulate the gas helps the colony stay properly positioned at the surface. Hanging beneath the float are long tentacles covered with specialized stinging cells called nematocysts. These cells can fire microscopic harpoons loaded with venom when triggered. The tentacles act as both fishing lines and defensive structures. The tentacles of a Portuguese man-of-war can grow extremely long, sometimes reaching lengths measured in tens of meters. This increases the area where prey can be captured. Small fish and plankton that touch the tentacles become immobilized by the stings. At the boundary between air and ocean lives a unique community of organisms called neuston or pluston. These animals live directly at the water's surface, where waves and wind constantly shape their environment. Life in this thin surface layer requires specialized adaptations. In siphonophore colonies like the Portuguese man-of-war, extreme specialization allows individual zooids to perform tasks more efficiently. Some parts function almost like organs dedicated to feeding or reproduction. Together, they create a coordinated colony that behaves like a single complex animal. Because they drift with winds and currents, large numbers of Portuguese man-of-war colonies can occasionally wash ashore together. When wind conditions push them toward land, beaches may suddenly fill with stranded colonies. These events show how strongly surface organisms depend on environmental forces. Copepods are tiny crustaceans that drift in the ocean as zooplankton. Despite their small size, they play a huge role in marine food webs. Many larger animals rely on them as a primary source of food. Scientists sometimes call copepods the cows of the sea because they graze on microscopic algae and convert that energy into animal biomass. Larger animals can then eat the copepods. This step helps transfer energy from tiny plants to the rest of the ocean ecosystem. Copepods are incredibly abundant and may be among the most numerous animals on Earth. In a single liter of seawater, thousands can sometimes be found. Their sheer numbers make them essential to ocean ecology. Many small fish depend heavily on copepods as a food source. When young fish begin feeding after hatching, copepods are often one of the first prey they consume. Without copepods, many fish populations would struggle to survive. As zooplankton feed, they produce fecal pellets that sink through the water column. These pellets carry organic carbon from the ocean surface down toward deeper waters. This sinking process helps move nutrients through the ocean. The movement of organic carbon from the surface into deeper layers is called the biological pump. It plays a major role in regulating carbon in the global climate system. Tiny animals like zooplankton help drive this enormous planetary process. Marine snow is a term used for the steady fall of organic particles through the ocean. It includes fragments of dead plankton, mucus, fecal pellets, and other small debris. As it sinks, it provides food for deep-sea organisms. The speed at which fecal pellets sink depends on factors like pellet size and which species produce them. Larger, denser pellets tend to sink faster. Faster sinking means carbon reaches deeper layers before it can be recycled near the surface. Through the biological pump, carbon can remain stored in deep ocean layers for long periods of time. This process helps regulate atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. Even small organisms therefore influence Earth's climate balance. Even small changes in plankton communities can alter how efficiently carbon sinks into the deep ocean. If different species dominate, pellet sizes and sinking rates may change. These shifts can ripple through the global carbon cycle. Box jellyfish have one of the most surprising visual systems among simple-bodied sea animals, because a single individual can carry a total of 24 eyes. That number doesn't mean 24 identical cameras, it means many separate light-sensing units spread across the body. For an animal that looks like a drifting bell, this is a reminder that complex sensing can exist without a familiar fish-like head. Those eyes come in multiple types, so the animal isn't using them all the same way. Some eyes are built for detecting light and dark, helping the jellyfish understand whether it is in sunlit water or shade. Other eyes include lens-based structures that can form more detailed images than simple light detectors. Together, these different eye styles give the animal a layered picture of its surroundings. The 24 eyes are grouped on structures called rhopalia, which hang from the edge of the bell like small sensory clubs. Each rhopalium holds a set of eyes and also contributes to the jellyfish's ability to balance and orient. Instead of one central face, the box jellyfish spreads its sensors around the rim so it can sample the world in multiple directions. Some of the lens eyes in box jellyfish are structurally reminiscent of camera-type eyes seen in vertebrates and cephalopods. This doesn't mean they are identical, but it shows that evolution can arrive at similar designs when the problem is the same: gathering light, focusing it, and making useful information. It's like different engineers independently inventing a lens because lenses work. In addition to their more image-forming eyes, some box jellyfish have lesser eyes that function more like light meters than cameras. These eyes track brightness and direction of light, helping the animal stay oriented in its environment. For a creature that must avoid obstacles while drifting and pulsing, knowing where up and open water are can be more important than detailed images. In some species, box jellyfish vision supports navigation around complex shallow habitats such as mangrove roots. Mangroves create a maze of vertical structures and shifting shadows, so visual guidance can help the jellyfish avoid collisions and remain in productive hunting areas. Even a basic sense of edges and contrast can make movement safer. The box jellyfish is a clear example that complex vision can evolve even in animals with relatively compact nervous systems. They do not have a centralized brain like mammals, yet they still coordinate sensory input with movement. This shows that intelligence isn't the only route to sophisticated sensing. Specialized circuits can handle specific tasks efficiently. Because their eyes have different roles, one animal can split visual tasks across multiple eye types. Some eyes can help detect the horizon line and stabilize orientation, while others may help notice obstacles or targets. This division of labor reduces the burden on any single eye and can make responses faster. Box jellyfish challenge the assumption that advanced AIs must be paired with a large, centralized brain. Their bodies show that you can distribute processing and still get effective behavior. In other words, smart design in nature can be about organization and specialization, not just raw brain size. More broadly, the visual ecology of gelatinous animals reminds us that simple-looking bodies can hide complex sensory adaptations. Many jelly-like creatures are transparent or minimal in shape, yet they interact with a visually complex world of glare, shadows, and moving prey. Their senses are tuned to what matters for survival, even if they don't match our expectations. The so-called immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis donieni, is known for an unusual ability. Under stress, it can revert from the adult medusa stage back to an earlier polyp stage. Instead of dying after reproducing like many jellyfish, it can shift its life cycle backward. This does not make it invincible, but it does make its development unusually flexible. This reversal involves a process called transdifferentiation, where specialized cells change into other specialized cell types. In most animals, cells become more specialized as development progresses, and reversing that is difficult. In Turritopsis, the body can reorganize cell identities in a way that rebuilds a younger form. After reverting, the jellyfish forms new polyp colonies that can later bud new medusae. So the adult stage is not necessarily the final step. It can become a starting point again. Over time, this can allow repeated cycles of growth and reproduction, at least in theory, under suitable conditions. Even with this life cycle trick, individuals can still die in nature from predation, disease, or harsh conditions. Immortal here does not mean unkillability, means the animal has a pathway to avoid one typical route to death, irreversible aging through its normal life cycle. Real oceans still contain many dangers that can end an individual's life quickly. In this species, the time it takes to reach sexual maturity can vary with temperature and is often measured in weeks. Warmer conditions generally speed development in many marine invertebrates, while colder conditions slow it down. That makes maturity timing flexible, tuned to the environment. All medusae produced asexually from a given polyp colony are genetically identical clones. This is common in many cnidarians, where budding produces new individuals with the same DNA. It means a colony can expand rapidly without needing a mate, especially when conditions are favorable. Because it can switch between body plant medusa to polyp and back to Turritopsis, has become a model organism for studying cellular plasticity. Scientists are interested in how cells remember what they are, and how that identity can be rewritten. The jellyfish provides a natural example of large-scale cellular reprogramming. When people describe it as cheating death, what they mean is returning to a juvenile-like stage, rather than preventing damage entirely. The animal is not freezing time. It is restarting a stage of life that is usually earlier in development. It's more like resetting the form than preserving an old body forever. Life cycle reversal is typically triggered by stressors such as injury or harsh environmental conditions, rather than being an everyday routine. Stress can push the animal toward a survival pathway that trades the adult form for a safer, more resilient stage. In calm conditions, it may simply live as a normal medusa. Research interest in Turritopsis includes aging biology, regeneration, and how cell identity is controlled. Scientists want to understand which genes switch on, which switch off, and how tissues reorganize without falling apart. Even if humans are very different, the basic principles of cell control are widely relevant in biology. Sharks and rays can detect weak electric fields using structures called ampullae of Lorenzini. These organs allow them to sense the tiny bioelectric signals produced by muscle contractions and nerve activity in other animals. In murky water or at night, this can provide information when sight is limited. The ampullae connect surface pores to sensory cells through jelly-filled canals. That jelly conducts electrical signals, helping the receptors detect very small voltage differences. It's a biological wiring system, tuned for sensitivity rather than speed. Electroreception helps predators locate prey hidden under sand by sensing the prey's bioelectric signals. A buried fish might be visually invisible, but its muscles still create faint electrical activity. The predator can use that invisible signature to strike accurately. The system works by detecting voltage differences between the pore at the skin and the receptor base deeper inside the body. Even tiny gradients are meaningful to these animals because the receptors are extremely sensitive. It's a form of perception that feels almost like electrical touch at a distance. Electroreception is common in cartilaginous fish like sharks and rays, and it also appears in some ancient bony fish lineages. That pattern suggests electric sensing is an old trait that evolved early and persisted in groups that found it especially useful. Different lineages then kept or lost it depending on their lifestyles. Many bony fishes and terrestrial vertebrates lost ampullae as evolution shifted sensory priorities. Living in air changes how electricity and conductivity behave, so the same structures may become less useful. In water, where electrical signals travel more easily, electroreception becomes far more practical. Shark sensory biology emphasizes that hunting is not based on one supersense, but on combining multiple system smell, hearing, the lateral line, vision, and electroreception. Each sense has strengths and limits depending on distance and conditions. Together, they create a layered awareness that guides behavior. The ampullae were described centuries ago, but their function was clarified later through modern experiments. Anatomists could see the organs, but understanding what they did required careful measurement and behavioral testing. This shows how anatomy and function can be separated by long gaps in scientific discovery. Electric sensing can also help sharks detect geomagnetic cues indirectly in some contexts, because movement through a magnetic field can generate electric effects in conductive seawater. The idea is that magnetism and electricity can link through physics, and animals tuned to electricity may gain access to magnetic information. This is one of the ways researchers think elasmobranchs might support long-distance orientation. Electroreception is strongest at short range and complements long-range senses like smell. Smell may guide an animal toward a general area, while electric sensing helps with the final, precise location of a target. It's a practical division: wide search first, then fine targeting. Some parrotfish can sleep inside a transparent mucus cocoon that they secrete around themselves. This cocoon is not a rigid shell. It is more like a thin, slippery envelope that surrounds the fish while it rests. It's one of the most distinctive sleeping defenses on coral reefs. The cocoon is produced gradually from mucus excreted near the mouth. Over time, the fish's body becomes wrapped as the mucus spreads and sets into a loose covering. This slow construction is a quiet, energy-efficient behavior that can be repeated night after night. One proposed function of the cocoon is reducing predator detection by masking scent cues. Many predators hunt by smell, especially at night, and a mucus layer could alter or trap odors that would otherwise leak into the water. It's like putting a soft barrier between the fish and the chemical world around it. Another hypothesis is that the cocoon reduces parasite contact during the night. Parasites that attach to skin may have a harder time reaching the fish through a mucus layer, or the fish may shed parasites when it leaves the cocoon in the morning. The cocoon may act like a temporary protective filter. Cocoon formation may occur more under stress or injury in some observations. When a fish is compromised, extra protection can make the difference between surviving the night and being found by a predator. This suggests the cocoon is not only routine behavior, but also a flexible response to risk. Many reef fish choose crevices, caves, or sheltered pockets as sleeping sites to reduce exposure. Physical cover matters because reefs are full of hunters, and being out in the open increases chances of being detected. A good sleeping site is often one that limits how many directions a predator can approach from. Many reef fish also show daily activity cycles tied closely to light levels. They tend to feed and socialize more during the day, then shift into lower activity at night. These rhythms help them align with prey availability and predator patterns. When resting, some fish reduce responsiveness, but can still startle rapidly if threatened. This is a balance between recovery and survival. Deep rest is useful, but the ocean rewards quick reaction. So many fish keep an emergency pathway ready even when they are calm. Nighttime habitat selection can differ from daytime habitat use even within the same small reef area. A fish might forage in open water or on exposed reef during the day, then retreat to a protected niche at night. This shift shows that reefs are used like neighborhoods with different daytime and nighttime rules. Rest behaviors in fish help show that sleep-like states can exist without mammal-style brain structures. Fish can enter patterns of reduced activity and responsiveness, yet still maintain essential functions and rapid escape. It's a reminder that rest is a biological need, shared widely, even when the nervous system is built differently. Some ocean animals form colonies where individuals specialize as parts of a larger functional whole, as seen in siphonophores. Rather than one animal doing everything, many units cooperate in a single integrated system. This arrangement allows extreme specialization, like having one unit designed mainly for feeding and another for reproduction. Colonial specialization can include separate units for capture, digestion, or reproduction. In practice, this means the colony operates like a single organism made of many coordinated bodies. Evolution can favor this design when teamwork yields efficiencies that a lone individual cannot match. The surface ocean includes unique communities often called Neuston or Pleuston, adapted to wave action, bright sun, and constant motion. Living at the boundary between air and sea is challenging because conditions change rapidly. Yet many organisms thrive there by using floats, sails, or specialized behaviors. Some surface drifters rely more on wind than currents, creating dispersal patterns that differ from organisms fully submerged in the water. Wind can push them long distances quickly, especially during storms or persistent seasonal breezes. This makes their distribution highly sensitive to weather and surface conditions. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems show that a food web does not need sunlight at the surface to support large, active animals. Near vents, chemical-rich fluids rise from the sea floor, and that chemical energy can power thick communities that include not only small invertebrates, but also predators and scavengers. In places that are otherwise dark and seemingly barren, vents can become concentrated oases of life, packed into a relatively small area. Chemosynthesis is the core engine behind these vent communities, and it works by using chemical energy often from substances like hydrogen sulfide to build organic molecules. In simple terms, it's like making food from chemicals rather than making food from light. The bacteria that perform chemosynthesis act as primary producers, filling the same ecological role that plants and algae play in sunlit waters. Not all chemosynthetic partnerships look the same, because some symbiotic bacteria live inside an animal's tissues, while others live on the outside surfaces. When bacteria live inside the host, the relationship can become extremely intimate, with the host delivering chemicals directly to the microbes. When bacteria live on the exterior, the host may farm them on body surfaces and then consume or benefit from what they produce. Copepod grazing is a major reason ocean food webs can scale up from microscopic life to large animals. Topopods feed on phytoplankton tiny, drifting photosynthetic organisms and convert that plant-like energy into animal biomass. When fish, seabirds or whales eat copepods or animals that ate copepods, they're tapping into that same foundational energy stream. The biological pump isn't only about particles sinking straight down like snowflakes in slow motion. Animals can transport carbon by feeding near the surface and releasing waste deeper, and ocean mixing can move dissolved organic matter into different layers. These pathways mean that carbon movement is a blend of sinking, swimming, and stirring, all happening at once across many depths. Ocean carbon export depends on two big things working together: how much organic material is produced near the surface, and how much of it escapes being recycled before it sinks. A lot of life in the surface ocean is quickly eaten, broken down and reused, which keeps carbon near the top. Carbon export becomes more efficient when more material sinks fast enough to reach deeper layers before it is consumed or decomposed. Many marine animals begin life as larvae drifting in the plankton, which means early survival often depends more on currents than on swimming skill. These larvae can be tiny, translucent, and carried across long distances before they ever settle into a reef, seabed, or coastal habitat. This drifting stage helps connect distant populations, but it also exposes young animals to predators and changing conditions. Broadcast spawning is common among many marine invertebrates, where eggs and sperm are released into the water at the same time. Fertilization then happens outside the body, in the open sea, which can work well when many individuals spawn together. This strategy can produce huge numbers of offspring, increasing the odds that at least some survive in an environment full of hazards. Some reef fish can change sex during their lifetime, and in certain species, this shift is influenced by social structure. For example, if a dominant individual disappears, a change in the group's hierarchy can trigger another fish to transition and fill that role. This flexibility can help maintain reproduction even when populations are small or social groups are disrupted. Not all sharks must swim continuously in the same way, because breathing strategies vary widely among species. Some sharks rely heavily on forward motion to push water over their gills, while others can actively pump water across their gills while resting. This range of strategies allows different sharks to occupy different habitats, from open ocean cruising to more sedentary reef living. Some rays move through the water using broad pectoral fins like wings, producing a smooth flying motion close to the sea floor. This style of movement can be efficient for gliding and maneuvering over sand, reefs, and rocky bottoms. It also helps rays stay close to the ground where many of their prey-like buried invertebrates are found. Seahorses have a prehensile tail that can grip seagrass or coral, helping them anchor in currents without constant swimming. Even more unusual, males carry developing embryos in a brood pouch, providing protection and stable conditions as the young grow. This shifts part of the reproductive investment to the male and creates a rare form of pregnancy among animals. Many nudibranchs, often called sea slugs, are brightly colored because of chemical defenses they obtain from prey or produce themselves. Their vivid colors can serve as warnings to predators that they taste bad, are toxic, or are otherwise not worth eating. Instead of relying on a shell for safety, these animals often rely on chemistry and signaling. Some nudibranchs can incorporate stinging cells from the cnidarians they eat and store those stinging structures for their own defense. This process is often described as stealing the weaponry of prey and repurposing it. In practical terms, the nudibranch can become dangerous to predators using borrowed stingers, even though it did not evolve those stinging cells itself. Filter-feeding bivalves can clean water by removing tiny particles as they feed, linking an animal's everyday meals to water clarity. As they pump water across their gills, they capture plankton and organic debris, which can reduce cloudiness in some environments. Over time, large populations of filter feeders can strongly influence local water quality and nutrient cycling. Kelp forests are created by large brown algae that grow into tall underwater canopies, forming three-dimensional habitat, much like trees do on land. These forests provide shelter, food, and breeding areas for many fish and invertebrates. The structure of kelp can slow waves and currents locally, creating calmer microhabitats within the forest. Otters are well-known predators of sea urchins in some coastal ecosystems, and this matters because urchins can heavily graze on kelp. When otters consume urchins, they can reduce grazing pressure and help kelp forests persist. This is an example of how a predator can influence a habitat indirectly by controlling a key herbivore. When sea urchin numbers drop, kelp often grows more densely because fewer urchins are scraping the seafloor clean. In some places, high urchin densities can create urchin barrens with very little kelp. Shifting that balance through predators or other factors can flip the ecosystem between kelp-rich and kelp-poor states. Some marine snails drill into shells using a combination of mechanical rasping and chemical processes that weaken the shell material. This allows the snail to access the soft tissues inside a hard protective shell that would otherwise be difficult to reach. It's a slow, methodical feeding strategy that turns patience and chemistry into a successful hunt. Crabs and lobsters grow by molting, meaning they periodically shed their hard exoskeleton and form a new, larger one. Right after molting, they can be soft and vulnerable until the new shell hardens. This creates a life cycle rhythm where growth comes with temporary risk, shaping when and where these animals choose to hide. Barnacles are crustaceans that cement themselves to surfaces like rocks, ship hulls, or whales, and then feed by extending feathery appendages into the water. Once attached, they do not roam for food. Instead, they filter passing particles. Their lifestyle shows a crustacean can be successful even when it becomes permanently fixed in place. Some marine worms build protective tubes by gluing sand grains and other particles together with mucus-like secretions. These tubes provide shelter from predators and strong currents, acting like a custom-built home. Many tube-building worms also help shape the seafloor by stabilizing sediments and creating microhabitats for other organisms. Sea anemones are animals, not plants, and they capture prey using specialized stinging cells that fire when touched. The stings help immobilize small fish or invertebrates that brush against the tentacles. Even though anemones often look like flowers, their feeding strategy is active and predatory at close range. Corals are also animals, and many reef-building corals host photosynthetic symbionts that supply a large portion of their energy. The coral provides shelter and nutrients to its symbionts, while the symbionts provide sugars made from sunlight. This partnership helps explain why many reef-building corals thrive best in clear, shallow, sunlit water. Coral polyps build reefs by secreting calcium carbonate skeletons that accumulate over long timescales. Each tiny polyp adds a little more hard structure, and over many generations, those structures can become massive reef frameworks. These reefs are not just living communities, they are also geological features built by biology. Because reefs are full of cracks, branches, and overhangs, reef structure provides shelter that can dramatically reduce predation for many juvenile fish. Small fish can hide in spaces too tight for larger predators to enter. This is why complex reef architecture often supports high diversity. It creates many safe niches for young animals to grow. Some deep-sea fish have oversized mouths and expandable stomachs, which helps them exploit rare feeding opportunities in an environment where meals can be scarce. When food finally appears sometimes in large chunks or in unpredictable bursts, these fish can take advantage without being limited by small jaws. This is a practical adaptation to scarcity. Be ready for the feast when it arrives. Many deep-sea animals have slow metabolisms compared with shallow water relatives, partly because cold temperatures and limited food reduce energy availability. A slower metabolism means they can survive longer between meals and spend less energy on constant movement. This low-energy lifestyle fits a world where resources arrive unpredictably. Pressure increases by roughly 1 atmosphere every 10 meters of depth, meaning deep-sea animals live under forces far beyond anything at the surface. High pressure affects proteins, membranes, and even how gases dissolve in fluids, so deep-sea life must be built to function under compression. This is one reason why many deep-sea species are so specialized and difficult to keep alive near the surface. Some deep-sea animals use gelatinous tissues that are cheaper to build than dense muscle, allowing them to grow large without spending too much energy. Gelatinous bodies can also provide buoyancy, and reduce the need for constant swimming. In a low-food environment, saving energy on body construction can be a major advantage. Many midwater animals perform diel vertical migration, rising toward the surface at night and sinking deeper during the day. This movement lets them feed where productivity is higher, while avoiding visual predators when sunlight makes them easier to see. It's a daily routine that connects deep and shallow layers like a living elevator system. This daily migration is often described as one of the largest animal movements on Earth when measured by total biomass. Even if individual animals are small, the combined mass moving up and down each day can be enormous. This makes diel vertical migration a major ecological process, not just a curiosity. Nighttime upward movement can reduce the risk of being seen by predators, while also allowing access to surface waters rich in plankton. Darkness acts like a protective cover, letting animals feed more safely. Then, as daylight returns, many retreat downward, where dimmer conditions offer better camouflage. Some squid can change skin patterns rapidly using chromatophores controlled directly by the nervous system. Chromatophores are pigment-containing cells that expand or contract to reveal or hide color. By controlling these cells quickly, squid can shift from camouflage to signaling in moments, matching backgrounds or communicating with other squid. Cephalopods can also use reflective cells, including iridophores and leucophores, to create shimmering effects beyond simple pigment color. These structures reflect and scatter light, producing silvery flashes or subtle brightness changes. Combined with chromatophores, this creates layered camouflage and signaling that can work in many lighting conditions. Schooling fish can reduce individual risk through confusion effects and shared vigilance. When many similar fish move together, it becomes harder for a predator to lock onto a single target. At the same time, more eyes and senses in the group can detect danger earlier, giving everyone a better chance to respond. Many fish use a lateral line system to detect water movement and vibrations, helping them navigate, hunt, and school with precision. The lateral line can sense pressure changes and small waves produced by nearby objects or animals. This means fish can feel movement in the water even in darkness or murky conditions, supporting coordinated group swimming. Some reef fish use sound for communication, producing grunts, pops, or drumming noises, sometimes by using muscles against the swim bladder. These sounds can help in territorial disputes, mating, or maintaining contact in complex reef environments. On a reef where visibility changes constantly, sound can be a reliable way to signal. Many marine mammals rely on thick blubber layers for insulation and energy storage, which is especially important in cold water. Blubber reduces heat loss and provides a long-term fuel reserve that can be used during migrations, fasting periods, or times of low food availability. It also helps shape buoyancy, affecting how an animal floats and swims. In general, baleen whales feed by filtering small prey, while toothed whales tend to hunt larger prey using pursuit, grasping teeth, and often echolocation. These strategies reflect two very different ways of making a living in the ocean, collecting vast numbers of small organisms versus targeting individual animals. The difference shapes everything from jaw anatomy to social behavior and foraging habitats. Many dolphin species live in complex social groups, and their behaviors can include learning, cooperation, and the use of distinct vocal patterns. Social living can improve survival by helping individuals find food, avoid threats, and care for young. Over time, learned behaviors can spread within groups, creating local traditions. Some whales produce long-distance calls that can travel efficiently under certain ocean conditions, especially when sound is guided through layers of water that transmit it well. This allows communication across distances that would be impossible with vision. Long-range sound can help with spacing, navigation, or maintaining contact in a vast, open environment. Many seals have sensitive whiskers that can detect tiny water trails left behind by fish. When a fish swims, it disturbs the water in a pattern that lingers briefly. Seal whiskers can read these subtle disturbances, helping the seal track prey even when it cannot see clearly. Penguins are birds that fly underwater by using their wings as flippers, trading aerial flight for powerful diving. Their bodies are shaped for swimming efficiency, with dense bones and streamlined forms that reduce buoyancy. This allows them to chase prey with agile underwater maneuvers while remaining well adapted to life on land for breeding. Some marine iguanas forage on algae underwater, making them one of the few lizards adapted to feeding in the sea. They dive to graze and then return to land, where they warm up and rest. This lifestyle bridges two worlds and shows how reptiles can adapt to marine resources under the right conditions. Manatees and dugongs are herbivorous marine mammals that graze on seagrasses, often spending much of their time slowly feeding. Their diets connect them directly to coastal plant ecosystems, and their feeding can shape seagrass growth patterns. Because they rely on shallow seagrass habitats, they are closely tied to coastal environmental health. Seagrass meadows are not algae. They are flowering plants that stabilize sediments, reduce erosion, and provide nursery habitat for many species. Their leaves slow water flow, helping particles settle out and improving water clarity in some areas. These meadows act like underwater gardens that support fish, invertebrates, and larger grazers alike. Many juvenile fish use estuaries as nurseries because food can be abundant and some offshore predators are less common there. Estuaries can provide sheltered waters, complex habitats, and rich plankton and detritus supplies. Growing up in a nursery environment can increase survival odds before young fish move into more exposed coastal or ocean waters. Estuaries mix fresh and salt water, creating salinity gradients that require strong osmorgulation in the animals that live there. Osmorgulation is the process of balancing water and salt inside the body, and it becomes challenging when the surrounding water constantly changes with tides and river flow. Animals that thrive in estuaries often have flexible physiology that lets them handle rapid shifts without stress. Salmon are anadromous fish, which means they spend much of their lives in the ocean, but return to freshwater rivers to spawn. This life pattern lets them grow large in the rich feeding grounds of the sea, then reproduce in rivers where eggs and young can develop in habitats that may have fewer marine predators. Many salmon use a powerful sense of smell to recognize the unique chemical signature of their home watershed, allowing them to navigate back with impressive precision. Some eels do the reverse pattern, called catadromy. They grow mainly in freshwater or estuaries and then migrate out to the open ocean to spawn. This is the opposite direction of salmon, yet it follows the same idea that different life stages can benefit from different environments. Freshwater can offer safe feeding opportunities for juveniles, while oceanic spawning may help distribute larvae widely with currents. When reef fish larvae are ready to settle, many can use chemical cues and even sound cues to locate suitable reef habitat. Reefs have distinct smells created by the mix of organisms living there, and they also generate a unique soundscape of snaps, grunts, and crackles. For a tiny larva drifting in the plankton, these cues can act like a gentle beacon that helps it find a place with shelter and food. Some fish form cleaning mutualisms similar to tropical reef cleaners, even in cooler or non-tropical environments. The basic idea stays the same. A smaller animal removes parasites, dead skin, or debris from a larger client, and both benefit. This shows that cooperation is not limited to coral reefs. It's a useful strategy that can evolve wherever parasites and repeated interactions create an opportunity. Symbiosis can take several forms depending on how the partners are affected. In mutualism, both organisms benefit. In commensalism, one benefits while the other is largely unaffected. and in parasitism, one benefits at the other's expense. In the ocean, all three appear widely, from microbes living inside animals to larger partnerships like fish and invertebrates sharing shelter. Sea spiders, also called pycnogonids, often have long legs and body plans that support oxygen uptake across their surfaces. In some species, internal organs extend into the legs, which increases the surface area interacting with surrounding water. This unusual design helps them function in marine environments where oxygen uptake and circulation can be very different from land arthropods. Many crustaceans carry eggs on their bodies until they hatch, rather than releasing them freely into the water right away. This physical brooding can protect eggs from being eaten and can keep them in well-oxygenated flow as the parent moves. It's a practical way to trade fewer eggs for higher survival odds. Krill form enormous swarms that become major food sources for many animals, including whales, seals, penguins, and fish. Swarming concentrates tiny individuals into dense clouds, turning many small meals into one large, predictable feeding opportunity for predators. In ecosystems where krill are abundant, they become a central link that moves energy from microscopic plankton up to large animals. Antarctic krill can feed on algae associated with sea ice, connecting ice habitats to the wider ocean food web. Sea ice can host algae in and under it, and when krill graze there, they convert that ice-based production into animal biomass. This helps explain why sea ice changes can ripple outward through polar ecosystems. Some fish in polar waters produce antifreeze proteins that reduce the growth of ice crystals in their bodies. These proteins can bind to tiny ice crystals and prevent them from expanding into damaging structures. It's a biochemical adaptation that allows life to persist in water temperatures that would otherwise be dangerously close to freezing internal fluids. Polar marine ecosystems often depend on short, intense phytoplankton blooms when sunlight returns seasonally. For much of the year, low light limits photosynthesis, but when conditions shift, plankton can grow rapidly. Many animals time feeding and reproduction to take advantage of these seasonal pulses of food. Many deep-sea corals do not rely on photosynthetic symbionts because sunlight doesn't reach their depths. Instead, they capture plankton and organic particles drifting by in currents, feeding more like quiet ambush filterers than like sun-powered reef builders. These corals can grow slowly and form long-lived habitats that shelter fish and invertebrates in dark waters. Sponges filter vast volumes of water and often host diverse microbial communities that help process nutrients. As water moves through a sponge's body, tiny particles and dissolved compounds can be captured or transformed. The microbes living within sponges can contribute to cycling nitrogen, carbon, and other elements in ways that influence the surrounding ecosystem. Some sponges produce bioactive compounds that deter predators or inhibit harmful microbial overgrowth. These chemicals can act like natural defenses, reducing the likelihood that the sponge is eaten or infected. Because sponges are stationary, chemical protection can be as important as physical structure for survival. Filter feeders can make water clearer locally by removing suspended particles, which can influence how far light penetrates. When many filter feeders are present, they can reduce cloudiness and shift the balance of nutrients between the water and the seafloor. This can affect nearby plants, algae, and the animals that depend on them. Some reef fish farm algae by defending small patches of growth from other grazers. They may chase away intruders and maintain the patch like a personal food supply. This behavior shows that territoriality in the ocean can be about protecting a renewable resource, not just defending a shelter. Sea urchins can strongly control algae growth on rocky reefs through grazing pressure. When urchins are abundant, they can remove large amounts of algae, sometimes leaving bare rock behind. When their numbers drop, algae and kelp can rebound, demonstrating how one grazer can shape the appearance and function of a whole habitat. Some starfish can evert their stomachs to digest prey externally. They can pry open shells slightly, push the stomach into the opening, and break down tissues outside the body before pulling the nutrients back in. This method lets them feed on prey that would be difficult to swallow whole. Some octopuses have been observed using tools, such as carrying coconut shells to create a portable shelter. By assembling or positioning objects for protection, they show a kind of practical problem-solving. Tool use is rare in invertebrates, which is one reason these observations are so scientifically interesting. Many cephalopods have relatively short lifespans and invest heavily in reproduction toward the end of life. Rather than spreading reproduction evenly across many decades, they often channel energy into a concentrated reproductive effort. This live fast, reproduce strongly strategy can work well in environments where conditions change and survival is uncertain. Some squid display synchronized flashing patterns that may function in communication, coordination, or mate signaling. In a dim environment, flashes can serve like visual language, especially when many individuals are together. Synchrony can also amplify the message, making signals easier to detect across a school. Bioluminescent burglar alarm strategies involve flashing when attacked, which may attract a larger predator that targets the attacker. It's a clever, indirect defense. Instead of trying to fight back, the prey increases the chance that something else intervenes. In the deep ocean, where light is rare, a sudden flash can be a powerful attention signal. Some animals use bioluminescent lures near the mouth to attract prey in darkness. The glow acts like a small, irresistible target, drawing curious or hungry animals closer. When prey approaches the light, the predator can strike quickly, using illumination as bait. Photophores can also help with species recognition, supporting mate finding in low-visibility environments. In the deep sea, many animals look similar in silhouette, so light patterns can act like identification signals. A distinctive arrangement of glowing spots can help individuals find the right kind of partner. Many deep-sea species are fragile when brought to the surface because rapid pressure changes can damage tissues and internal gas spaces. Their bodies are adapted to stable high-pressure conditions, and sudden decompression can be harmful. This is one reason deep-sea exploration requires careful methods to study animals without destroying them. Some jellyfish blooms are seasonal and tied to temperature, nutrient availability, and current patterns. When conditions favor rapid growth and survival, jellyfish populations can expand quickly. Then, when conditions shift, blooms can fade, showing how strongly gelatinous life responds to changing ocean physics. Jellyfish are efficient drifters and can tolerate low oxygen zones that stress many fish. Because they do not rely on the same high oxygen demands as fast-swimming fish, they can persist in conditions that exclude other animals. This tolerance can shift food web balance in areas where oxygen levels drop. Many marine snails and slugs rely on chemical defenses rather than shells, reflecting different ways of reducing predation. Some produce toxins, bad-tasting compounds, or irritating secretions that discourage attacks. Over evolutionary time, chemistry can become a replacement for armor when mobility or other traits are favored. Some clams and worms at cold seeps host chemosynthetic symbionts, similar in principle to vent tube worms. Cold seeps release chemicals like methane and sulfide more steadily than many vents, providing long-term energy sources for microbes. Animals that partner with these microbes can thrive in deep, dark places where typical food supply would be limited. The ocean's mid-water twilight zone contains vast biomass but remains undersampled compared to surface waters. Light is dim, there enough for silhouettes and faint color, but not enough for photosynthesis. Many animals in this zone are part of major food pathways, yet they are harder to observe and measure than coastal species. Lanternfish participate in deal vertical migration and are often among the most abundant vertebrates by number. Each day, many rise at night to feed near the surface and sink during daylight to darker depths. Because they are so numerous, their movements can influence how energy and carbon flow through the ocean. The efficiency of the biological pump is influenced by whether organic matter is repackaged into fast-sinking pellets or remains as slower-sinking flakes. Fast-sinking moves carbon deeper before it can be recycled, while slow-sinking gives microbes and small animals more time to break it down. Small differences in particle shape and density can change where carbon ends up stored. Microbes play a major role in recycling marine snow as it sinks, breaking down particles into smaller components and dissolved nutrients. This microbial processing feeds deeper ecosystems and also determines how much material reaches the seafloor. In many ways, microbes act like the invisible engines that decide the fate of sinking carbon. Ocean food webs often show strong bottom-up control, where the productivity of phytoplankton sets the ceiling for higher life. If primary production rises, more energy becomes available to zooplankton, fish, and larger predators. If it falls, the effects can cascade upward, limiting growth and reproduction across the ecosystem. Temperature affects metabolism, so warmer waters often speed growth and development in many marine ectotherms. Faster metabolism can mean faster feeding and reproduction, but it can also increase energy demand. In colder waters, slower metabolism can conserve energy, which may be beneficial when food is scarce. Many reef-building corals spawn in synchronized mass events that increase fertilization success. When many colonies release eggs and sperm together, the probability that gametes meet in open water rises dramatically. This synchronization can be timed with environmental cues such as temperature, daylight patterns, and lunar cycles. Coral larvae often drift before settling, and their settlement choices can be influenced by light, substrate chemistry, and microbial films on surfaces. They need the right kind of hard surface and conditions that support survival and future growth. This selection process is one reason reef recovery depends not only on larvae being present, but on suitable habitat being available. Some fish show parental care by guarding eggs or fanning them to increase oxygen flow. Fanning helps bring fresh water over the eggs and remove waste products, improving embryo survival. Guarding also reduces the chance that eggs are eaten by nearby scavengers. Seahorse male pregnancy changes reproductive costs and can influence sexual selection in unique ways. Because males carry embryos, their brood pouch capacity can limit how many young are produced at one time. This can shift competition and mate choice patterns compared with species where only females invest heavily in gestation. Many sharks produce relatively few, well-developed young compared with most bony fish, reflecting a life history strategy focused on higher survival per offspring. Instead of releasing millions of eggs, they often produce fewer offspring with more resources invested in each. This strategy can make populations slower to recover when numbers drop, because reproduction is naturally limited. Sharks show multiple reproductive modes, including glaying, live-bearing, and intermediate forms. In some cases, embryos develop in eggs inside the mother. In others, there is placental-like nourishment or other nutrient pathways. This diversity shows that shark reproduction is flexible and has evolved different solutions across species. Many marine animals use countershading dark backs and light ballista blend with light from above and below. From above, the darker back matches the darker depths from below. The lighter belly blends with brighter surface light. It's a simple pattern that reduces contrast and can make an animal harder to see. Some animals can match background textures by using skin papillae or body shape changes, as seen in certain octopus species. By raising or flattening small skin structures, they can mimic rough rock, coral, or smooth sand. This adds a physical dimension to camouflage, working alongside color change. Ocean currents connect distant habitats, allowing larvae from one reef or coastline to replenish populations elsewhere. This connectivity helps explain how separated regions can remain genetically linked over time. It also means that damage in one place can affect recovery in another, because populations are connected by drifting young. Connectivity can be disrupted by barriers such as temperature fronts, salinity gradients, or strong eddies that limit transport. When larvae cannot cross these boundaries easily, populations can become more isolated. Isolation can lead to regional differences in genetics, behavior, and resilience. Many marine species rely on chemical cues in water that can travel around rocks and through reefs when vision is limited. Smell and taste in water can reveal food, predators, mates, or suitable habitat. Because water carries dissolved molecules efficiently, chemical sensing becomes a powerful way to understand the environment. Some fish can detect ultraviolet light, which can improve contrast when viewing small plankton near the surface. UV sensitivity can reveal prey that blends into the background in normal visible light. It can also play a role in signaling between fish, because some patterns are visible in UV that predators may not detect as easily. Polarized light patterns in water can help some animals orient themselves or detect reflective prey. Reflections from scales or surfaces can produce polarization cues that stand out from the surrounding water. For animals with polarization sensitivity, this adds a layer of information that is separate from color and brightness. Some animals have reflective layers that create silvery camouflage, mirroring the surrounding water like a living mirror. In open water, where there is little structure to hide behind, reflecting the environment can reduce visibility. This works especially well when the background is mostly water and light gradients. Some deep-sea black fishes have extremely low-reflectant skin that absorbs most incoming light. In a world where predators and prey may use bioluminescent searchlights, being non-reflective can reduce detection. This is camouflage built not by matching the background, but by eliminating shine. Many coral reef fish have laterally compressed bodies that improve maneuverability among branches and crevices. A thin, flattened shape helps them turn quickly and slip into narrow shelter spaces. In a complex reef, agility and access to hiding spots can matter as much as speed. Pelagic fish like tuna have streamlined bodies and high-performance muscles adapted for sustained swimming. Their shapes reduce drag, and their physiology supports long-distance movement in open water. This design is suited for a habitat where food patches can be far apart, and constant motion is part of survival. Some fish regulate buoyancy using swim bladders, but many fast swimmers rely more on lift generated by movement. Swim bladders are helpful for hovering, but at high speed they can be less important than hydrodynamic design. Different buoyancy strategies reflect different lifestyles, hovering and ambush versus cruising and chasing. Many sharks lack swim bladders and instead use a mix of dynamic lift, fin shape, and buoyant liver oils to manage position in the water. A buoyant liver helps reduce the energy cost of staying afloat, while motion and fin angles provide lift when swimming. This combination supports a wide range of behaviors, from slow cruising to rapid pursuit. Some rays bury themselves in sand, leaving only the eyes and spiracles exposed for breathing. Burial provides camouflage, helping them avoid predators and ambush prey. Spiracles allow them to draw water in for breathing even when their mouths are covered by sand. Across ocean creatures, repeated themes appear: energy efficiency, sensory adaptation, and partnerships that help life fit the conditions of light, pressure, and food availability in each habitat. Some animals save energy by drifting, some by slow metabolism, and others by storing fuel in fat or gelatinous tissue. Many develop specialized senses: light, vibration, chemicals. Even Electricitita read a world where visibility changes constantly. And again, cooperation emerges, from microbes feeding tube worms to cleaners helping fish, showing that in the ocean, survival is often built quietly through connection, balance, and gentle adaptation.